So, we cannot stop the mind. We cannot fix the mind. We cannot resolve the mind. But we can honor the silence, can honor the stillness. We can value the silence and the stillness of being more than the meanderings of the mind. It is to know that the mind has a campaign. It wants to survive. It wants to be on the awakening train. And it thinks it knows everything about this. But to give it any airtime at all is to leave yourself. Have to unhook the mind, unhook from the habit to go towards the mind, to listen to the mind, to explore the mind's meanderings, to explore the life story, right? It's so habitual. In certain ways we have learned that this is the way to healing. It is not the way to truth. It is not the way to freedom. The heart is longing for truth. The heart is longing for freedom. Then it is to know that you already are the self. Where you are seeing from is the self. Where you are watching the mind from is the self. So we could say that the aware being is aware of the mind, but it is the mind itself that likes to comment upon itself. Sometimes we call this the interloper or the interceptor. It is not awareness talking. Awareness is silent. It is the mind that likes to talk about the mind. Notice how easy it is to say, well, mind thinks, mind says. How easy it is to give it airtime. And then to explore what mind says, what mind thinks. But exploring what mind says and what mind thinks is going to be a dead-end route. It is the mind's attempts, strategies to stay alive, to keep the separation in place. That is not what we are here for. We are here for freedom and freedom alone. We are here for truth and truth alone. We are here to unhook from the habits of the mind. We are here to see through all of the cunning ways that mind attempts to keep recreating itself, reseeding itself. It is truly just to be still and watch, to truly value the stillness, the silence that you are over the mind's meanderings. It takes vigilance. It takes the most incredible humility. Humility is to live without your story, live without the attachment to past. The habit of the mind is to keep exploring the story. Whether we see it or not, the mind imagines, here I go, the mind imagines, the mind imagines that it can solve itself. It imagines that it can master life. It imagines that if it just solves this, then it's going to offer something worthwhile. Not true. Not true. The me imagines that its goal is, in its human life, is to find pleasure, love, happiness that doesn't leave. And it thinks that if it keeps trying within its realm of possibility, within its scope, its limited scope of possibility, that it will get there. But it will not. The mind imagines that it knows a thing or two about awakening. It's read a few books, listened to a few videos, quite a few videos, sat with a few teachers. It thinks that it knows a thing or two, or 5, or 100 about awakening. Thinks that it knows exactly what it's looking for and it's going to recognize it when it comes along. Not true. Not true. You see, the mind has all of these strategies. It's very, very cunning, but it's only fooling itself. The me is only fooling itself. So we speak these things, and so we can recognize. We can shine the light of awareness openly, lovingly, with utter presence upon all of these habits and how they continue to play out. And most importantly, how they continue to hook us, right? Just to see it, to admit it. Yep, that's what happens. You can't stop it, not by will. You cannot stop the mind by pressing a button, because we all know that if we could by now, we would have done it. So, what to do, what to do, what to do, says mind. Nothing, absolutely nothing. Now, there's the key. But what does mind say? Well, nothing is not going to get me there. So I got to try a little harder. I got to find a new strategy. But no, nothing, nothing. Listen. Listen between the words and hear what is being spoken. Nothing, nothing. You can offer nothing. Are you willing to offer nothing? Are you willing to let go of the concepts, the beliefs, the ideas, the wants, the desires, the false sense of knowing, all of the information, and meet your own silence, absolutely naked, without anything? How could the mind possibly imagine that the greatest offering to the glory is nothing, is your own silence? The glory is just waiting for your silence. The glory is waiting for your utter silence, for your offering to be empty nothingness, for you to show up here in this moment with nothing, absolutely nothing. Of course, the mind cannot imagine, but we are not asking the mind to imagine. We are inviting the resonance of true knowing to recognize the profundity in these very, very simple words. Show up as nothing. Show up empty. The mind continues to bang on the door, but there is no door. But the mind continues. Are you there in there, God? I'm trying to get in. I'm absolutely devoted. Silence, silence, I'm here. I long for you. I want to merge with you. Banging on the door, banging and banging on the door, but there is no door. You see, the mind doesn't know. Anything that the mind can show up with, it will not gain entry, because it is just about your silence. It is your emptiness. It is to show up with and as nothing. To just be here. To be here so fully. so completely that you are not trying to understand the mind's meanderings. You are not giving airtime. You're not allowing the mind to comment upon itself, even if it is cunningly laughing at itself. Silly old mind, right? It likes to do that, but it's just another strategy. It's another way to keep itself alive and to pull the attention into the non-reality, right? There is no door. There's nothing to do. There's nothing to give, but your utter emptiness. Because showing up to this moment completely empty, as the silence, you recognize that what is here is worth valuing, is so profound, is so profound. Who are you without your story? Who are you without your story? In this moment, find out, who are you without your story? Who are you, in truth, without attachment to past, without projections into the future, without the beliefs and ideas and concepts that you have held dear? Who are you? It is this invitation to unhook from the mind by watching the mind, not by using the mind and exploring the mind's meanderings, but to be aware of the mind, to watch it, to be still and watch, but do not engage with it. At some point, it stops being interesting. Because resting in the truth of being is recognized to be so much more compelling, so much more compelling. It is to value and honor the silence that you are. You already are the self. You already are the divine being. The aware being that you are is that which is aware of the mind. So, whatever the mind has to say, it is just to be aware of it. See it. As the awareness, you can smile lovingly. Can watch those strategies. Watch all the ways that it attempts to pull the attention. But it is to stay with yourself, to remain, to say no to the mind and yes to the self. Yes to being. Anything that you can be aware of is not the true nature. And so it's so easy to check, so easy to check. If you are aware of it, if you are able to perceive it, then that is not who you are. And as soon as that has been noticed, it is to just let it go. Every time you do not move towards the child that wants to pull your attention. Every time you stay firm, you fall deeper into truth. Every time you do not move towards what the mind is asking, the attention it is asking for, there is a surrender that happens. When you are not feeding the mind, when you are not nourishing the mind with your attention, it will start to wind down. It is to recognize that the great longing is to live in abidance of the self. You already know this self that you are. You already are the self. You already are the being. And so it is to honor this, value your knowing. See how easy and habitual it is to go towards the mind. We are not speaking of the mind's simple and natural functioning that allows practical things to happen. We are speaking of the mind that is the thinking process that continually confirms a sense of separation, that keeps the sense of me as the separate one alive. It takes a vigilance, it takes a courage, and it takes tremendous humility to let go. The letting go is not even a doing. The letting go happens naturally when there is a resting in and as what is true, and not leaving yourself, not going towards the attention pulling of the mind. In order to unhook, we cannot think our way out of it, we cannot resolve, we cannot stop it. We can just not listen. It's like a child that is just constantly wanting attention. And you keep giving it attention and it will just want more. But it is to stop giving it the attention. Does it stop completely? Almost come to the point where you don't even notice, because you're not taking any notice of it. You don't give any value to it. So it can arise. It's met with love. It's met with presence. It's all it ever truly wanted anyway. Love, presence, connection. So you give it what it truly longs for. Like a good parent. Do not give it the candy again and again and again and watch it grow. You give it love, you give it presence, you give it connection. You give it your full attention, but not by getting tangled into the story, by just being here. Being here, you see it. You do not move towards it, you do not engage and dance. And the light and the truth and the purity of your attention is all that is truly longed for. And when you are resting in this truth, that which feels to be separate, it dissolves. It dissolves into itself. We could say my life, my story, my past, my future, all the things that make up the me. My life dissolves naturally into life itself. And you come to find that life has always been living itself. But there is an unencumbered flow when life is just living itself without the mock controller, right? The child driving the bus. To value the silence that you are. Value the being that you are. It is more profound than the mind could ever imagine. But you can feel in your own presence the incredible richness, the richness of your emptiness, right? That your emptiness, your nothingness, is your most richest offering. To truly be here. To offer everything up. And so that all that remains is emptiness. There is this presence that can be recognized. You can feel your own presence when you are empty of all of the mind's meanderings, empty of the habit to try to fix the life, try to resolve the life. You cannot resolve anything by going around and around in the mind. The me will try. It has been learned to attempt to resolve life. It can be very challenging. The mind could say, well, it's very hard when you're living in the world, very hard when you have relationships and family, very hard when you have a job and workmates, very hard. Yes, mind, it's very, very hard. We hear you. But it's not about the mind being concerned about how hard it is. Just be aware of that thought. Be aware. Don't buy it. Don't buy it. Because it's not hard for the being to be itself. It's hard for the mind to be the being. It's hard for the mind to stay present. But we're not asking the mind to do anything that it is not capable of. We are allowing the mind to do exactly what it does. You are just recognizing that you are not the mind. 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 You are not the me. You are not the body. You are not anything that you can be aware of. So there is nothing to do. There is no action that you can do. It is to recognize what you are and then explode into the revelation of what you are. What are you? What are you? You are this presence. How do you know? Because here you are present. Here you are stillness. Here you are silence. Here you are being yourself. You do not need to understand it. You cannot understand it. You cannot take it into the limited realm of mind and try to make something out of nothing. No, you cannot. It's absolutely impossible. You cannot even make an awakening out of it. Because once there is awakening, there's no one to awaken. There's just the field of awake, alive consciousness that you are, ever awake, ever fresh, ever being itself. If you want anything from it, if the mind wants anything from it, you will be back in the realm of the limited. If you want to understand it, you will be back in the realm of the limited. If you want to find out, is this it? No. Quite frankly, no. If there's someone asking, is this it? No. Because knowing yourself is the self-fulfilled, self-aware being that doesn't have to look for outside counsel. The confirmation, the verification, the authentication of this is your very own beingness. It is your heart. It is the truth that you are. You do not need anything external, right? Is this it? 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 Ah, ah. The beaming smile, the radiance of your heart confirms, this is it. This is it. You know, even when you are resting in this truth, in the beginning, the mind will keep questioning, well, are you sure? Are you sure? Is this actually it? But the mind, you see, will never know. But when there's a tenderness, and many of you will recognize this, when there's a tenderness in the knowing of being, it's like you're a new shoot, you're a fresh shoot, and the knowing is here. But that intercept keeps coming in and saying, is this it? Have we got it? No, you've got nothing. You stay over there. The being just is. The being just is. And this is what you want to keep confirming. The being is here. The presence of being is here. It knows itself through its own beingness. There's no one that is getting anything. The confirmation is in the felt sense of relaxation, of emptiness, openness, vastness. You feel the infinite, unbounded nature. You come to the feeling you are not the person. Alleluia. I'm not you. I'm not the person. I'm not the person, right? You come to this recognition in many different ways. And sometimes it will be deep and strong and unquestionable. And sometimes it will feel very strong and then it will start to filter away. But it never ever goes anywhere. As you recognize and come to the knowing, your knowing never ever diminishes. This is where we speak of your bushwhacking through. You never lose the accumulation, let's say, of your knowing. You don't go back to zero. Well, there's a way that you do, but not like a game of snakes and ladders, right? You don't end up falling down a snake and you have to start again, right? The knowing is here. You already are. You already are the being. You already are the self. You already are the wholeness, the glory that is. You already are the empty, blissful perfection. You already are the equanimity of being. You already are. And where you know this, it is to keep nourishing this knowing by recognizing your knowing, confirming your knowing, right? Confirming your knowing. Now recognizing in this moment that where you confirm your knowing, it's not in the mind. Can you feel that here now? Confirm it here now. Where the knowing is. Where is the knowing? Feel it now. Where is the knowing of the presence that you are? Where is the knowing of the being that you are? Recognize that the confirmation of this is not in the mind, it's not a thought, it's not someone, it's the felt sense of your very own presence. What else can you notice about it? Just be here. Feel your own presence. If you have a sense that you're not feeling your own presence, come to the avenue that brings you here, the I, the I, the I, the I am, I am, I am. Just being, just being, just being. Here now, here now, here now. Whatever it is, whether it's listening for the silence, feeling the deep, rich stillness. Feel the being that you are. Come to your knowing. Confirm this knowing. Recognize that where you are confirming it is not in the mind. It is not someone. It is spacious and open. It is the field that is awake. It is not someone that is awake. It is the awake field, awake to itself. It is consciousness itself, consciously aware of itself. Awareness aware of itself being here. There's a simplicity. Just like if we ask the simple question, are you here? You don't need a mirror to say, yep, hang on a minute, am I here? Oh, yep, I'm here. You don't need the mirror. Are you here? Where do you go to confirm that? You go to the felt sense of presence. You can confirm it without a mirror. You can confirm it without seeing your reflection in the glass. But you're seeing a different reflection. You're seeing a more subtle reflection. But that seeing is not someone seeing its body and confirming its existence. It is the self seeing its own reflection in the mirror of light awareness. It's more subtle. Can you feel that? Can you feel the subtlety of seeing yourself, of knowing yourself, feeling your own presence here, that you are here now? How do you know? Because you just are. It seems so obvious. And yes, it is obvious. You are here. In this moment when you feel yourself here, do you have a story as presence? Does presence have a story? Does stillness have a story? Find out and confirm. Stillness does not have a story. Does stillness have a past? Does stillness have aspirations for the future? Is stillness wondering what it's going to have for dinner? Confirm. Find out. No, stillness does not have a past. Stillness does not have a future. So what is stillness up to? What is stillness up to here now? Absolutely nothing. Absolutely nothing. Just here, being still. How big is stillness? How big is stillness? How small is stillness? Can you measure stillness? Can you measure the being that you are? Do you find any edges where the being, where the stillness ends? How do you know this? Where are you confirming this? To notice right now that you are not confirming it in the mind. You are exploring your own consciousness. You are exploring your own direct experience of your own self, just being here. Are you a person? Are you someone? Are you a character? Are you limited in any way? Confirm in your own experience. Can you feel how the exploration is not in the mind? If there is a going to the mind and the me and trying to work it out, what you can confirm is that silence is not here. Grr, says the mind. But it's good information. It's good information to recognize that if you go to the mind, you are away from silence. You are away from the being. It is just to be here, so simple, so free. Watch the mechanism if the mind comes in. So this is something to get used to. As awareness, you are aware of the mind. Thought comes in, awareness is aware. Awareness does nothing. Notice, awareness is just aware. Awareness is watching the thoughts. If awareness can be so inclined, if it's not too busy just being aware and just reveling in its blissful emptiness, awareness is also watching the thoughts like clouds in the sky. Awareness is the infinite sky. It's aware of the clouds that are moving. It's mostly not really concerned because it's pretty concerned with its own brilliance. It's just being brilliant, just radiating radiance, just loving itself and fairly compelled by its own infinite, unbounded divine nature. But those clouds, they seem pretty inconsequential in comparison to its own radiant gorgeousness. But multitasking here, awareness can also be aware of the clouds that are passing. Now, if awareness was to leave its radiant, shining brilliance and jump into a cloud, what would happen? Would the lights go out in the whole world? If the sun jumped into a cloud? Of course not. The sun is still shining, even if it is obscured inside a cloud. Just like your brilliant, shining nature, even if attention wanders to a thought, even if attention wanders, the brilliant sun of your being is still shining, ever present, ever luminous, ever shining. So the cloud might say, oh sun, you're not shining anymore. You're in a cloud, you're all dull. Does the sun believe the cloud? Oh no, of course not. The sun doesn't even answer the cloud because it knows that it is ever shining, ever brilliant. So, brilliant shining being, will you believe the mind when it tells you that you are not brilliant shining being? Will you believe the mind? Will you let your attention be pulled into those stories, into a seeming cloudiness and dullness? Will you believe that your presence, your glory is lost? Of course not. Of course you will not believe it. The conversation is mind to mind. The conversation is the me conversing with itself, keeping itself alive. Come to the being, come to the brilliance, come to the infinite vastness. Feel the simplicity of your own existence. When you feel the simplicity of your own existence, you are feeling existence itself. It's pretty huge, vast, boundless, infinite being. Existence itself. Existence itself. Extraordinary. How beautiful to be feeling existence itself. The vastness, the infinite, unbounded nature of existence. Just simply being. Just being. Contentedness, an openness, a balanced, harmonious being. Just knowing itself. Knowing its own glory. Knowing itself. Knowing itself. Reveling in its own knowing. Oh, it's so alive. So alive is the knowing. Can feel the aliveness of your own presence. Feel the aliveness of your own presence. It's alive as knowing. Where being is being itself, when presence is knowing itself, present to itself, there's an aliveness. We could say where silence is resting in its own silence. Even the silence is dynamically alive. Even the silence is roaring as it's resting in its own nature. Be here now. Be here as the roaring silence. Deep, deep, deep in the still, silent being, where the confirmation is in the innermost being. It's deep in the innermost being. The recognition, the realization. You see, it's not external. You cannot look to something to confirm this truth. Can only confirm this truth in your direct experience. And as you confirm it, as the knowing is here, fall into the resonance of the knowing. The knowing is so rich, so rich. It is so alive. And that aliveness is the bliss of being. The bliss of being. Nowhere to go, nothing to do, nothing to achieve, nothing to work out or resolve, nothing to understand. It's just about being here and confirming. Being the formless being, the infinite, formless, boundless being. Recognizing your spacious, formless nature. Feel the freedom feel the silent freedom of being yourself. That you are not confined, defined by personhood. Confirm that. You see, to keep confirming the truth in your direct experience, it lands deeper, it roots deeper. Has to come from your direct experience, where the being itself is confirming its own nature, exploring and confirming its own nature. You already are the self. It is this vigilance to unhook from the mind. Come to this self-aware, aware being. Recognize the self-sufficiency, the wholeness of being yourself. That you are self-sustaining, self-confirming, self-validating. This is the autonomy, is that you are resting in true nature and you are confirming this truth within your own nature. The being does not express itself in the way that the mind would like to. It silently confirms. It rests in its knowing and it drinks in that knowing. Drinks in the knowing like a rich ambrosial nectar. Drinks in the bliss that carries everything deeper. So much beauty you are. So much beauty is the being. The immaculate, untouched being. The pure, innocent being that just is. This is the truth of who you are. This is the truth of who you are. Not the mind, not the body, not the story, not the past, not the future, not even the present, let's say, not even the present, but the presence itself. Anything that you can be aware of, you are not. You are not defined or confined or limited by anything that you are aware of. So explore, have fun exploring. This is true inquiry. It's to rest as yourself. Be curious about what is this self? What is this I? What is this being? What is this presence? To inquire by going inward. Inquire, inquire. Recognize that anything that you are aware of takes you away from. There's such a simplicity in being here now. Being aware of, confirming that anything you are aware of, you are not. And so what happens is, the mind says, so awareness notices, I'm aware of that I am not. The mind comes in and says, yes, but, la-di-da-di-da-di-da, la-di-da-di-da. It's got some kind of comment, it's got a narrative about it. What it usually does is says, well, the mind says, it generally, it kind of negates itself. It tells its story as if it's a silly old mind, right? Have you noticed that? It tells its story in a kind of negating way. Well, the mind wants to know, that naughty old mind, that silly old mind. And then it tells itself what it wants to say. It wants to know, but I say silly old mind. But what it actually wants to know is that it's afraid that it's going to dissolve. It's afraid of, you see, so it gets to tell its story anyway. It loves it. It loves it. It starts by negating it. It starts by saying, I can see the mind, can see the mind. It wants to go towards that thought over there, but I'm not going towards it. But what that thought is that it's just feeling really concerned about how it's going to go and do the shopping if it dissolves into the being. So there it is. The mind got its airtime again, right? Do you notice how sneaky it is? It's so sneaky. It covers itself up. The mind says, I'm pretending to be the being here. I'm policing the mind. Right? So we're shining the light. We're shining the big flashlight upon the mind and all of its strategies. So the mind loves to talk about itself. It loves to tell you what it's afraid of. It loves to tell you how you're not getting it, but it's only telling itself. You know, you're not getting it. You're fooling yourself. You haven't had any kind of awakening, you know, because you're not really up to it. You haven't really, you know, been meditating for long enough, haven't read enough books. It will just keep going. It will just keep going. And it gets subtler and subtler and more sneaky. Right. But we're onto it. Full on, 100% onto it. We got the beaming light of awareness. The beaming light of awareness is ready to unhook all of those tendrils, right? Feel the resonance as these words come. Are you ready to unhook all of the tendrils? Are you ready to be so vigilant within your true nature that you can shine the light upon all of these habits and ways that the mind is strategizing to keep itself alive? Oh, it loves to laugh at itself. I got caught out. I got caught out. Oh no, oh no. Okay, fair cop, game's up, game's up. And then here it comes again, right? Because it's not about the mind. It's not about the mind. It's not about it being caught. It's not about the mind unhooking itself. The unhooking happens as a natural surrender. It can only happen when you recognize that you are not, that you are not. This being you are. You are always the being. You are always the self. The curiosity to keep questioning. This, the being, the being, the being. Resting, resting, resting. Here now, here now, here now. I am, I am, I am. Just the I. Even if you start off feeling like a mind body, you keep repeating until you leave, in a way, the sense of any kind of personal experience. You cannot help transcending. You cannot help coming to the transcendent. And you are the transcendent. And as the transcendent, it is to confirm that you are the transcendent field. You recognize yourself. You're not someone that is transcending and then coming back. Not someone that is meditating and then coming back. You are living meditation. You are living satsang, right? You are living inquiry. You are the living answer to every question when you are resting in the being. And yes, the mind will pull you and attention will wander. But do not even waste a moment in that game of the mind, berating itself, feeling guilty, feeling shame, questioning itself. Just come to the being and be happy. Come to the being and feel the blissful emptiness. Come to the being and be free instantly, spontaneously, right now. Be free. It's not a process in time. It's to come to the now, and everything else disappears. That here you are as the being yourself. You are utterly free. There is nothing to unhook from. There is nothing to do, nothing to achieve. You just are here now. The surrender happens as you fall instantaneously into yourself. There's an immediacy, and here you are now, profoundly, perfectly, beautifully whole, self-sustaining, confirming yourself in the aliveness of your knowing, being yourself, being yourself, being yourself, being yourself, knowing yourself, knowing yourself, knowing yourself, just being yourself. The felt sense of being here. It's in the felt sense that if the felt sense feels like someone feeling, you go deeper and deeper and deeper. The true felt sense is subtle. It's very, very subtle. It's the direct experience of your own conscious awareness, being consciously aware of its own existence. So just to be here now. There is nothing other than now. Just to be here now. To let go of story. To be here now, seeing yourself. If the eyes tend to be mostly closed, ping, eyes open. Be awake, because you never know when grace is going to come for you. And if you're sleeping, you will not see. You will not see. You cannot awaken to the awake field with your eyes closed. Ping! You can transcend and go deep. You can transcend and go deep. But ping, the eyes have to be awake, right? So this is why we speak of sometimes, if your eyes are closed and you're going deep, you can be sure that if you open your eyes too quickly, you will come back into your personhood. When your eyes are closed, very, very slowly, with your eyes closed, feel the being. Be aware that eyes are going to open. Mm-hmm. And as the eyes open, do not focus outwards. Do not grasp outwards. Let the eyes open very, very slowly and stay absorbed. Rest absorbed in the being. Allow the gaze to be soft and right on the periphery. Very, very soft focus, like a camera lens that's out of focus. Maybe that's a wide aperture. So, as the eyes open, you rest absorbed. There's awareness of the environment. There's awareness of sense perception, but you do not grasp outwards towards sense perception. Yes, visual landscape here. Yes, sound landscape here. Yes, all of the sense perceptions are here, but you're not grasping outwards. You are the aware being, and you're using sense perception universally. You're using all of the sense perceptions simultaneously, universally, as awareness. You're not fragmenting through the senses. You're not fragmenting and coming into form. You're not coming into being someone. You're resting as no one, resting as the spacious awareness. So you can play with this, right? This is beautiful. You can play with this when you are resting deep as you open the eyes very, very slowly. You can even just be aware of how you grasp outwards. How do you become the person? How do you come into form? It's exactly what happens when you wake up in the morning after deep sleep. In those hazy first moments, there's no story, there's no past, no future, there's nothing. It's just like you're in deep sleep, but there's an awareness. Here you are, the self. And then the first thought comes in, watch it, watch it. First thought comes in, and the me is up and running. Vroom, vroom. The engine of the ego up and running, and off you go. Right? You've left yourself back in the bed. Right? But no, here you are. You're still the being. You're still the being. So it's to be aware of this. Eyes wide open, heart wide open. So alert as awareness, but not grasping outwards. You're inwardly alert. You're inwardly aware. Alert, aware, alive. You're not going to miss anything. God is going to swing by. You're going to be ready. You're going to be ready. Right? You're here. You're here now. Your presence itself. You're aware. You're alert. You're being yourself. The winds of grace are blowing through. You're going to be carried. You're not going to be, like you've just missed the bus again. No. You're resting in the transcendent. You're resting as the transcendent. You're absorbed in the being. And the more deeply you're absorbed in the being, the more you are immersed in the true nature. It is to value the being, value the stillness, honor the being, the stillness, the silence. Recognize the profundity and that it's all here. That what you are looking for is right here. Notice the habit to be the seeker, but to be right here, seeking ends. And when there's a true seeing of this, seeking truly does end. In an instant, seeking can end. And what do you find? You find nothing. You are nothing. You are nobody. There's nobody to seek. There's nothing to find. You just are. You just are. Feel that here now. Feel the taste of that as deeply as it can be tasted. It is not here. The mind can say, well, I'm not tasting it deeply enough. But it's not the mind that tastes. Taste the taste and do not go towards the mind. Do not let the mind evaluate the taste. Do not let the mind evaluate anything about the being. Be the being. Recognize the being. As these words come, it is only ever to be with the resonance. And as you are with the resonance, as the resonance lands, as it comes alive, as it gets enlivened, it is to feel that enlivenment. But do not move then to the mind, because the habit can be, something got enlivened. Mind says, let's check that out. Let's check that out and find out. No. Stay with the direct experience. Stay with the direct experience and be aware of how subtle it is that the mind wants to come in. How subtle it is that mind wants to be the one navigating and moving everything, controlling everything. But there is no controller here. It's not to worry about what the mind is doing. Have no concern about what the mind is doing. It's the mind being concerned with itself. It's to notice you are aware of it. If you are aware of it, discard it. Do not let it distract you. If you do not go towards, we could say mind, ego sense, could kick up a little fuss. It could cause a stir in the nervous system because it wants what it wants. It could have a little tantrum, right? But the true parent does not then give mind what it wants. True parent stays true. True parent says, I love you, I'm here, I'm not going to give you what you want because I love you and I am here. Right? You know what is truly longed for. So you stay true. You may feel stress come in the nervous system when mind doesn't get what it wants. But that's okay. That is okay. It's just to allow that tension to release in all the ways that you know, to allow that stress just to release and to just be here, to just be here. Have such sincerity and commitment to yourself, to make the priority commitment to being yourself, not to the story, not to the thoughts, not to the play, but to yourself. To have the devotion be to the self, devotion to truth, devotion only to now, devotion only to the freedom that is longed for. Saying yes and yes and yes to that which is true. You already are the self. You already are the being. That is a done deal. It is already established. What you are looking for, you already are. So stop looking and be. The mind says, I am not that. I am looking for that. But let the one that is looking keep looking. But be yourself. When you are resting as yourself, the one that is looking will merge into the being that is here. Just like this true parent, when you are holding the presence, that which is looking will merge into, it will let go of its search. Because when finding is here, it penetrates everything. It moves through everything. It shines in every cell. Bing! The brilliance of your being shines simultaneously at every point in infinity. You do not have to wonder, is this it? Is this it? You do not have to wonder. Bing! It's shining. The brilliance of being is shining. You already are. You already are. It is just to be yourself. Just to be yourself. So as these words come, it is just to feel the resonance. To feel the resonance and be here. Be here being the being that you already are. You already are. So stop looking in all of the wrong directions. Just be here as yourself. And all of the threads that are dancing into the external, they will be magnetized. They will be magnetized to this truth because they will realize that they did not really want the candy that they so aggressively kept fighting for. But all that is longed for is the sweetness of the self, the sweetness of presence, the sweetness of Suddhasattva, the sweetness of the pure immaculate being, knowing itself, being lived as the true nature, right here on the surface of life, shimmering its brilliance, shimmering its radiant, radiant, unconditional nature. And so as these words come, what is listening and what is speaking is the same. There is no one listening, no one speaking. The self speaking to itself. It's not the mind speaking. It's not the mind listening. Although the mind might be off on its own dance, thinking that it is having its own experience here. But do you see, we are not concerned with what is happening in the mind. This is the self speaking to itself, loving itself, in devotion to itself, valuing itself, coaxing itself, saying, this is who you are. Love yourself, value yourself. Be here, feel the incredible beingness that you are. You already are. You are not the story, you are not the past, the present, you are not your moods and emotions. You are not anything that you are aware of. Be here, being only aware of yourself. You are not a thing. You are no thing. You are empty, blissful, immaculate being. Just being yourself. And life surrenders into its own flow with no controller, no doer. Life is flowing all by itself, just as it always has, but flowing so freely without the filters of the mind, attempting to obscure this incredible flowing truth. Feel the flow of the aliveness of your true nature. Be yourself. We could say, remember this truth, remember who you are, but do not be someone that remembers, right? Oh yes, I remember, I had an experience 2 years ago. No, not that one. Remember right now as the aliveness. Don't remember as someone that remembers conceptually. No, there's the interceptor. There's the interceptor right there. Do not be that one. Surrender that one. Be even more undone. Be even more naked. Be even more simple and silent. Be even more still. Be here as silence itself and feel the alignment where you cannot feel the edges of someone, because the alignment is full and rich and singing. It's singing the celestial song of silent being. So as these words come, it is just to feel the resonance, just to feel the resonance, the silence, the stillness, the simplicity of being. It is not about this game of the mind catching the mind. It is, as has been spoken by Ramana, it's like the mind dressing up as the policeman and playing catching the thief. but you are the light. You are the light, the beaming, brilliant light. And when you shine upon all of the mind's meanderings, you shine upon the thief and the policeman, right? The thief dressed as the policeman. You shine upon the whole shebang. You uncover it, you reveal it, and you expose it all. And in the exposing of it all, what remains? What remains? What cannot go anywhere? The light itself, the awareness itself remains just as it is, as it has always been, timeless, pure, immaculate being. And this is who you are. Feel where the yes is. Feel the confirmation in the innermost being, in the heart itself. Confirm it in the heart. You already are the self. You already are the bright, shining being. It is just to be yourself. Be the being. Be nothing other than the being. Great glory you already are. Where the knowing is right now, just revel in this knowing. There's nothing to understand. Do not give the knowing to anyone that wants to rob you of it. Revel in the knowing. Then reveling in the knowing, recognize there is happiness for no cause, joy, delight for no reason. There is this openness that is love, that is wholeness. There is a peace here that cannot be disturbed. As these words come, confirm it. Take a look in your own experience. Notice, is happiness here? Is joy here? Is peace here? Not from the perspective of mind, but feel it. Feel it. And if you cannot find all of these things, do not let the mind then pull you away. Feel what resonates and just be so happy with what you find. Be so grateful with what you find. Gratitude, humble gratitude is the true nature. Even just the smallest sip is like the happiest little hummingbird getting one simple little sip of sweetness. Just blissfully joyful and grateful, not looking for a whole canister, just happy and reveling, intoxicated with that little sip of sweetness. Allow gratitude to come. Allow grace to flow. Feel the peace, the simplicity. The contentedness is that which wants nothing other. Only the me wants. Notice how the being wants nothing. Wants nothing. It's so richly fulfilled in the moment. You are not the character. You are not the person. You are not the story. You are not the roles, the moods, the emotions, the past, the present, the future. You are none of that. You are this simple emptiness that is just reveling in its blissful emptiness. silent, still, open, delighted. Illuminated, illuminated in your own presence, illuminated in the grace of your own presence.